Welcome to Entry Point Faith. Join us each week to discover fresh meaning in the world and find faith your way. Now, here is Pastor Nancy Lafferty.
Tonight begins Yom Kippur, the Hebrew Day of Atonement. And those who observe this Jewish holiday reflect on their past mistakes. They resolve to amend their behavior, and they ask God and their neighbors for forgiveness. Meanwhile, in the Christian tradition, we have likely seen this passage from the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. If you believe in a God, then you likely believe that your God is all-powerful. Forgiveness is an easy thing for an all-powerful God to do. It's easy for God to forgive. For us humans, not so much. It also may not help that as humans, we have many thoughts about other ways to deal with those who trespass against us. We say words like retribution, punishment, revenge, or evening the score. We have been hurt, and we want to stop the pain somehow. We know that forgiveness is the right path, but thinking about revenge just feels so good. We have been hurt, and we want to stop the pain right now. We think revenge is a dish best served cold. One of the songs you just heard this morning makes a reference to the adage that living well is the best revenge. How do we get past the anger at being wronged, at being hurt, and towards the peace of forgiving those who trespass against us? If you go to the interwebs, you will find several billion answers or speculations. Good luck with that. Meanwhile, psychiatrist Stephen Marmer suggests that there are three types of forgiveness. The first is exoneration, or wiping the slate clean. I think that the Catholic tradition kind of hopes for that, where you confess your sins and you are absolved. Exoneration wipes it clean. The second type of forgiveness is forbearance, and that's where things get a little bit complicated. And the third type is release, where we no longer define our life and ourselves in terms of the ways that we have been hurt. Exoneration is easy, and it's the usually thing that we think about when we think of forgiveness. A simple example is I'm standing in a crowded room, and ow, somebody is standing on my foot. Once the other person realizes what's going on, they say, oh, I'm so sorry. They sincerely apologize for standing on my foot. And more importantly, they also stop standing on my foot. This is exoneration. The slate has been wiped clean. Forbearance, like I said, is where things are a little bit more complicated. What if I'm standing in this crowded room and someone is literally standing on my foot? They apologize. They vow to be more mindful of my personal space. They're acting very, very remorseful. They are so sorry, and they're still standing on my foot. They say they don't mean to cause me pain, but they are still standing on my foot. I may have reason to doubt the sincerity of their apology. There are many less literal examples of forbearance. I suspect you can think of some yourself. What if a person does more than just stand on your foot? What if someone hurts us in an egregious, life-changing, unforgivable way? That's a good question. Unfortunately, I have an example of this from my own personal life. Several years after my late son's father and I amicably separated, I then found myself in an abusive relationship. This is very common. Domestic abuse is absurdly common. It's sadly common. In the United States, more than 1 in 3 women and more than 1 in 4 men will experience some sort of violence or stalking or abuse from an intimate partner in their lifetime. If it has not happened to you, it has likely happened to someone you know. It does not just happen in country western songs or soap operas. It happens across all communities, across all income levels, and across all types of relationships. That's where somebody is standing on your foot and says, "I'm not standing on your foot, it must just be in your head." Or, "I stepped on your foot because you made me." Or, "That doesn't hurt, I was just kidding." All of the possible footsteps. Step foots, what's the good word that we want there? Never mind. That sort of pain that is brought to you by someone who is supposed to love you, who is someone with whom you are bonded to emotionally, I don't recommend it. It's not fun. As you can likely surmise by looking at me right now, I was able to stage my escape from that situation. The journey of that escape is one that I will spare you. You're welcome. But you can get there from here. I currently live in a pleasant and peaceful place. But how do we forgive something so complicated? And should we even have to? It's unforgivable. Should we forgive it? At times, I've thought about revenge, the retribution, and I knew that wasn't healthy. I also know that we, as humans, are not wired to do the healthy things. We want to get back at them. But maybe we can use that evil energy for good. I can do the right thing for impolite, unsavory, and icky reasons. That's okay too. I'm reminded of a story about someone who was getting ready for their high school reunion, and they wanted to look so svelte and so fit because their childhood nemesis was going to be there too. And they knew that, oh yeah, she's really let herself go, so I need to be all this. You know what I'm talking about. So they do this healthy thing. They go on a weight loss and fitness program just to look good in front of that you-know-what. And then after that high school reunion, they kept up their healthy habits for years and years after that. And they continued to live a healthy and good life, and they probably extended their own lifetimes by doing a healthy and correct thing for a really, really catty reason. There are times when I was exiting that relationship by coincidence of life being difficult. I was halfway through grad school when I did this. So I had a lot on my mind. And there are times when I got very tired. I'm dealing with this personal life thing. I've got a day job. I'm going to grad school. There are times when I wanted to just say, yeah, I'll take another semester off. I'll just take a break. But no, sometimes I pushed on because I wanted to prove that other person wrong. The person who told me that I had no work ethic, or that I couldn't cut it, or I couldn't pull it off. So sometimes I push through with grad school because grad school is right and you're doing the smart things. And sometimes it's just this, I'll show him. That's how you do that sometimes. Along the same line, you want to do that, but you don't want to obsess about the revenge. My girlfriends, my therapist, my bartender, and other professionals in my life were helping me to learn how to just wash that man right out of your hair. At least 2 girlfriends said, wash that man right out of your hair. I wanted to be released from that. I didn't want to have the stress of that prior pain affect my ability to do my job, to care for my son. I didn't want to have the baggage of that prior relationship to interfere with this beautiful vibe that I have with somebody else in the room that I'm going to make blush right now. I didn't want to get that past junk all over this beautiful thing that's happening right now. How do you get there from here? How do you get to that release? I'm going to rip up another proverb that is in both the Old and the New Testament. If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you. That sounds pretty cool. We don't just hunger for food. Forgiveness is something that we hunger for as well. And one interpretation, the old school, Old Testament interpretation, is that the coals are symbolic of God's judgment or of a person's non-existent remorse. Are the coals that person's shame? Another interpretation is to extend that idea about feeding your enemy. Here's a fish. Here's some fire for you to carry to your hearth. Go cook your fish and feed your family. Go on, get. I think both interpretations are equally valid. The true joy of this sort of release is that if you wash that hurt right out of your hair, then the person who has hurt you is no longer living rent-free inside of your head. I am by no means doing this perfectly. I am certainly not completely at peace. But I am doing it well enough that I have exacted the perfect revenge. My abuser no longer hurts me every day, and I'm going to be okay. I will close with another two favorite quotes. The first one is one that you've probably all heard before from the English poet and satirist Alexander Pope. To err is human, to forgive divine. The other one is more important because it comes directly from something very close to home. At the time I was exiting that relationship, my daddy helped remind me that taking the high road and doing the right thing is not only correct, it's satisfying. May your life be free from danger and suffering. May you have ease and well-being. I thank you for listening. Namaste.
Thanks for listening in on this week's discussion on Entry Point Faith. You can join the Entry Point Faith community in person every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. at Conner Prairie in Fishers, Indiana. For more information and a transcript of Nancy's messages, visit entrypointonline.org. Entry Point Faith is brought to you in partnership with mypodcastmedia.